and gas stamps to get out here because he wanted to drive his own car. And then we came to Richland, to our A house. This was on Casey. And my mom took one look at it and started to cry. And we got out of the car, and sand just came up, dust all over our shoes, you know. And my mom just said, she called my dad Johnny. She was the only one. Everybody else called him John. Johnny, you've taken us to a lot of places, but this is the worst one yet.
Times were not easy for Richland's new residents. Workers put in long hours, toiling at jobs that most didn't even know the purpose for. Security was tight, and waiting. Waiting for anything became just a matter of life.
We only had a few stores here on George Washington Way, as you know. And so you stood in line to buy beverages, you stood in line to get your mail, you stood in line for everything.
We accepted things in those days. It seems to be better than folks do now. You know, and it was just a way of life. And the hell, I'd been in the service, and you spend all your time in a line in there, you know. And most time you don't even want to be in it. So if you wanted to be in it, that was an improvement right there.
Security had another beneficial social effect, you know? And you know, if a worker was involved in a serious legal infraction, there was, you know, a risk that that worker would lose his clearance. And if you lost your clearance, you know, you had, I think it was 5 or 7 working days, you know, to vacate your government-owned home, you know? And it also applied to members of your family. You know, if they got in trouble with the law, you know, mom or dad who held the security clearance, held the job, you know, was also at risk for termination. You know, so there was, you know, incentive on a number of generational fronts, you know, to behave yourself.
The world will note that the first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, a military base. We won the race of discovery against the Germans. We have used it in order to shorten the agony of war, in order to save the lives of thousands and thousands of young Americans.
The final realization of Richland's sacrifice to the war effort came to fruition on August 9 of 1945, as residents learned of the bombing of Nagasaki and Richland's contribution to peace. But what to do with this hidden community nestled along the Columbia River? Continued tensions throughout the world and a commitment to alternative uses of this newfound power would ensure that these homes would stand the test of time.
The next era of homes after World War II, there was about 9 designs. Were constructed, about 1,400 homes. You had the Q, R, S, and M. And they were larger homes. I think the government realized, you know, especially, you know, with the post-World War II boom, you know, baby boomers, you know, you needed larger kitchens. I know with our Q house, it's a much larger kitchen than the World War II homes.
And you know, you didn't pay for electricity, you didn't pay for water. Everything was furnished in the rent, and even the coal.
Yeah, everything was provided, and it was very inexpensive, you know, even for that time period. You know, obviously everything was subsidized.
It wasn't your house, it belonged to the government, or at HEW, and so that was the rules. You couldn't paint on your own. You're not allowed to. You had to call them to, if you wanted a paint job. One of the things that a lot of the people did is that they had cement bathtubs. And they were very, I mean, cement bathtubs. They were very rough and gray and unappetizing looking, so a lot of the people kind of accidentally dropped things in them to crack them so they could get a new bathtub.
You know, when you really think about it, the houses were better than anything we had had when we came here. They were brand new, they were all electric, they were clean.
The last era of homes was called the Korean War era, and there was the C&K designs, about 140, 150 of those homes constructed, and also the you had the strip apartments, along GWWII, where some of them were built. These are your last, once again, the last of the government homes. You're getting into a style of definitely more modern, towards modernism. We had, at the end of the last era, between the World War II and the Korean, you had the ranch homes, and this kind of, it was a continuation from the ranch design. And once again, and there's a lot more mixture of all these homes, especially in South Richland. A lot more blue collar, designed for, the larger family. But at the same time, they were really devoid of a lot of the classical designs you saw in the World War II homes, and even some of the post-World War II, the interwar homes.
Richland was a government town, and town life was far from convenient. It was a timid cartoon character with a funny name that brought Richland's residents needed humor to the otherwise demoralizing living conditions. Dupus Boomer, created by Dick Donnell, a DuPont employee who had no previous cartooning experience, took his name from the Dupe from DuPont, the U.S. from United States, and Boomer, a nickname for workers who followed boomtown construction. Donnell's character, which appeared in the Richland Villager newspaper from 1945 until it ceased publication in 1950, helped many Richland residents see the humor in the termination winds and other pitfalls of early Richland life.
I remember I had a kitty, I had a cat that was, I named it Atomic because we got him about the time that they announced the bomb. That's what had been going on. And this little black cat disappeared. And shortly after the cat disappeared, there was a Dupus Boomer cartoon in the Villager, the newspaper, I think that's what it was. And it was showing, of course, the winds, which they almost all referred to a lot of the winds. And up in the corner of this cartoon was this little black cat blowing. And we always thought, well, that's what happened to my cat, because he just plain blew away.
I'm Dave Donnell. I'm Dick Donnell's grandson. Grandfather had a very dry sense of humor, very outgoing. He'd say something, there'd be just kind of a zinger at the end, where kind of a sarcastic zinger that'd catch you by surprise. It was the Hanford project that brought him here, specifically what he did there. I don't know what he did. I live in a 3-bedroom prefab. There's one cartoon that he had. He bought a Christmas present for his son or something as an airplane. He made some points about the low ceilings, which is kind of weird. I'd haul stuff in the house and with the people that had lived here during that time, they were a part of it, and they could sort of relate to the different things that he drew.
Most of the humor people found in their situations seemed to revolve around their identical houses, stacked neatly side by side on identical streets.
It was, when we first came here, everything looked the same. All the houses, there was not a landmark, so to speak. I was a little nervous about leaving the house, hoping I could find my way back. And what was interesting is because no one ever locked their doors. And one night, we were in bed, and we heard someone at the door, opened it up, came in. And my husband got up to see, and the man was confused, thought it was his house. He asked him what he was doing there, and he said, well, this is my home. And Rice says, no, it's not. He was so embarrassed and confused. I think he might have had a drink or two. And he just mumbled and left. Hopefully he found his home.
My father-in-law was visiting me, and he went downtown for something, and when he come back, he just walked into the wrong prefab, and as I remember, he had a pie, and he walked in there, and he said, what do you want me to do with that? And that old gal, but, she probably had seen him over at our place, so she sent him north.